Everything you thought you knew about the upcoming Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra just changed in a single instant. And if you're currently holding an iPhone, you might want to pay very close attention because the game is not just changing, it is being completely rewritten. We have seen leaks before, and we have seen rumors that turn out to be nothing more than hype. But what just happened on Geekbench is different because it tells a story of two different phones and one massive leap forward that could finally make the most loyal Apple users jump ship to Samsung. The Galaxy S26 Ultra has officially appeared in benchmark listings, but it showed up with two completely different sets of results, and the latest one is so powerful that it creates a serious problem for every other phone on the market. The first leak we saw was honestly a little disappointing, the kind of thing that makes you wonder if upgrading is even worth it. But then the second leak dropped, and it revealed what is quite literally the most powerful Android processor ever made. But it is not just about raw speed and big numbers, because hidden inside the software leaks is a camera upgrade that sounds small on paper, but might actually solve the single biggest problem smartphone cameras have struggled with for the last 5 years. We're talking about a feature that fixes the messy middle ground between resolution and lighting, and it is something that could make this phone the undisputed king of photography. Let's dig into exactly what is going on with these performance numbers, because the drama here is actually very interesting. The team over at US and Exynos spotted these new listings on Geekbench for both the Galaxy S26 Ultra and the S26 Plus, carrying the model numbers SM948 and SM942. Now, on the surface, everything looks standard for a flagship killer. Both of these devices are packing 12 gigabytes of RAM. They're running on the upcoming Android 16 right out of the box, and they're powered by the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 chip. We know is this specific chip because the test results confirmed the presence of the Adreno 840 GPU. But here is where the confusion started. The initial results that came out for the Ultra were not exactly earth-shattering. The S26 Ultra scored 3,466 in single-core performance and 11,035 in multi-core. To give you some context, the S26 Plus actually beat the Ultra in multi-core performance with a score of 11,097, although it had a slightly lower single-core score. For a phone that is supposed to be the absolute pinnacle of Android engineering, those numbers were good, but they were not terrifying. They were safe updates. But then, the narrative flipped completely. We just received a fresh set of benchmark results specifically from the US version of the Galaxy S26 Ultra, and these numbers tell a completely different story. It is like looking at a totally different device. The US model is hitting a staggering 3,815 in single-core performance. This is not a margin of error. This is a massive jump in raw power. The reason for this huge boost seems to be the clock speed. The CPU in this US model is running at its rated peak clock of 4.74 GHz. When you compare that to the competition, the difference becomes embarrassing for other brands. Look at the OnePlus 15, for example. That phone is a beast in its own right, but it scores around 3,618 in single-core tests. The US S26 Ultra is now beating it comfortably. But the real target here is not OnePlus, it is Apple. This new score of 3,815 brings the Galaxy S26 Ultra dangerously close to the iPhone 17 Pro Max, which sits at a score of 3,871. We're talking about a difference that is so small you would never notice it in real life. And remember, while it is catching up in single-core speed, it is still maintaining that massive multi-core advantage of over 11,000. However, there is a catch that we need to talk about, and it is a crucial detail for anyone living outside the United States. This incredible single-core score of 3,815 is something that the Exynos 2600 processor simply cannot achieve. Based on all the current estimates and technical analysis, the theoretical ceiling for the Exynos 2600 single-core performance is stuck around 3,500. This means we are looking at a year where there is a genuine, tangible performance gap between the Snapdragon version of the phone and the Exynos version. If you're in a region that gets the Exynos chip, you're mathematically getting a slower phone, even for the same price. The Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 for Galaxy is also using a higher clock GPU running at 1,300 MHz, which cements its status as the most powerful processor in the Android ecosystem right now. It is a beast for gaming, for rendering video, and for handling heavy multitasking without breaking a sweat. But let's be honest for a second. Benchmarks are fun to look at, and they're great for bragging rights, but they are rarely the reason normal people buy a phone. You buy a phone for what it does for you every day, and that is why the leaks about the camera are actually much more significant than the processor speeds. The legendary leaker Ice Universe has revealed that the Galaxy S26 Ultra is getting a new 24-megapixel photo mode. And while that number sounds random, it could be a total game changer for mobile photography. Here is how this is going to work. This new 24-megapixel mode is not going to just appear in your face on the default camera screen. It is for the enthusiasts who want better quality. You will need to open the Camera Assistant app and enable it through the Advanced Resolution option. Once you flip that switch, it works in both the standard photo mode and the portrait mode. According to the leaks, this appears to be a software exclusive, likely just for the S26 series or perhaps even just the Ultra model. You might be asking yourself why we even need this. You can already shoot in higher detail using Samsung's Expert RAW app. That app saves images in a 16-bit RAW format, and it gives you tons of detail and dynamic range. But anyone who has used Expert RAW knows it is not perfect. It has a tendency to over-sharpen the details, making things look a bit artificial. It also creates this annoying purple fringing effect, especially when you're shooting faces or scenes with bright backlighting. It is great for editing, but it is not always great for a quick, beautiful photo. The new 24-megapixel mode is designed to avoid these specific pitfalls. It delivers that high detail we want, but without the weird artifacts. Ice Universe describes it as feeling more like a daily use shooting mode rather than a mode that is aggressively chasing extreme detail at the cost of image quality. It is the sweet spot. This actually brings up a very logical question. If the S26 Ultra has the same massive 200-megapixel main camera sensor as the S25 Ultra, why on earth would you want to use a 24-megapixel mode? Isn't bigger always better? The answer is actually number 200 megapixels is an incredible marketing number and is great in very specific situations, like when you have perfect studio lighting and you need to print a billboard. But in the real world, 200 megapixel struggles. When you cram that many pixels onto a small sensor, they are tiny. They cannot capture light very well. This leads to noisy images in low light, massive file sizes that fill up your storage, and it takes the phone a long time to process the image. To fix this, phones use a process called pixel binning. This is where the phone combines multiple pixels together to create one big super pixel. Currently, Samsung bins down to 12 megapixels. This is great for light sensitivity, but means you're taking a 200 megapixel sensor and only getting a 12 megapixel image. You're leaving a lot of detail on the table. This is why 24 megapixels is the perfect solution. It is the ideal middle ground. You get significantly better detail than the standard 12 megapixel shot, so your photos look crisp even when you crop in. But you also get much better low-light performance than the full 200 megapixel mode because there's still some pixel binning happening. Plus, the file sizes stay reasonable so you do not run out of space. Samsung is actually following a trend that Apple started. The iPhone 17 series, including the 17 Pro Max, already uses 24 megapixels as the default output. There is a reason the iPhone is currently considered the best camera phone out there by many reviewers. That 24 megapixel balance delivers consistent, high-quality results. Samsung adopting this suggests they are done playing the numbers game and are ready to focus on actual image quality, which is very bad news for Apple, because that was one of their main advantages. Beyond the chips and the cameras, there are other quality-of-life improvements coming that round out this package. We have heard strong rumors that the S26 Ultra will be physically thinner than the S25 Ultra, making it easier to hold and use with one hand. They're also finally upgrading the charging speed. The leaks point to faster 60-watt charging, moving up from a 45-watt standard they have been stuck on for a while. It is not the 100-watt charging you see on some Chinese phones, but it is a welcome improvement that will get you back to 100% battery much faster. As for when you can actually get your hands on this device, the timeline seems pretty set. All the rumors and historical patterns point to a Galaxy Unpacked event on February 25th, with the phone hitting actual store shelves in early March. So what does this leave us? The Galaxy S26 Ultra is shaping up to be a monster. It has the most powerful Android processor ever made, specifically tuned for Galaxy to beat the competition. The US version is absolutely crushing benchmarks and closing the gap with the iPhone in a way we have not seen in years. Yes, if you're in a region getting the Exynos version, the performance gap is real and frustrating, and that is something to consider. But regardless of the chip, that 24-megapixel camera mode might be the real star of the show. It solves the problem of choosing between blurry low-light photos or noisy high-resolution ones. It is a smart, practical upgrade that targets the one thing everyone does with their phone: take pictures. In my opinion, this feels like the year Samsung stops chasing gimmicks and starts perfecting the formula. They're attacking Apple on speed, they're attacking them on camera consistency, and they're refining the hardware design. If you have been sitting on the fence, waiting for a sign to switch from iPhone to Android, or if you're holding on to an older Galaxy waiting for a real upgrade, this looks like the one. It is powerful, it is smart, and it finally prioritizes the user experience over just big numbers on a spec sheet. This is the device that proves the hardware wars are far from over. If you like this deep dive into the S26 Ultra, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you do not miss our full review when the phone launches. Share this video with your friends who are still stuck in the Apple ecosystem, and hit the bell icon so you are the first to know about the next big leak. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.